And welcome. All the professional coaches that have arrived or will see this at some later point, or coaches that are interested in becoming a professional coach, or if you're just curious about professional coaching, you've found the right place. This is going to be the first episode and hopefully 100 different episodes on different aspects of becoming a professional coach and what that is and how it might be different than mentoring or consulting or any of the other helping professionals. So, in today's session, we're going to be talking about the International Coaching Federation's core competency model. This core competency model was developed 2000 or 1998 was the original competency model that was put together, and I happen to be a part of that. In today's session, we're going to be looking at the updated version that was published at the end of 2019. So welcome. My name is Peter J. Redding. I am a professional coach. I'm a professional coach trainer. I certify and have trained probably over 4,000 coaches worldwide. And this is my way of giving back. This is spirit-led. What I received back probably about 6 or 8 months ago is a message from what I consider my spirit to say, how can I support the world in a greater way to understand the powers of coaching, who is created to be a coach, how do you go about doing that? And so it's also my desire to have coaching be available to more people. Coaching has been fairly exclusive in the last 25 years to top corporate people, people that have the wherewithal to pay for coach training. We continue to do that, by the way, so it's not that we've stopped doing that, but I want to make it accessible to more people and allow that to take place. So today we're going to look at the beginning of the competency model. This will probably be the first in, my guess would be probably 6 or 8 different modules like this, specifically looking at the ICF, International Coaching Federation's core competencies. Okay? So welcome aboard. You're in the right place if you want to know that. Let's start off with competencies first of all. Competencies can be seen and held as three primary things. One is, what do you need to understand or know about a particular profession? Number 2 is, what are the skills? What do you need to be able to do as you're doing blank, in this case, coaching? And so the competency model includes both those things. The knowledge, things you have to understand about it. Number 2, the skills, the competencies and skill set that a professional coach has developed and continues to develop. The third one is an interesting one, and it's known as attitudes. What attitude do you bring to this profession? So I always use the example in my classes of, you can give 2 people a hammer, right? If one has the attitude of construction, they will build. They'll say, this is a tool for me to build. They have the attitude, the mindset of, this is a practical tool to build something. If I give it to a person that has a mindset of destruction, then they are going to see this as a weapon. This is going to see something to tear something down. So they're going to be banging at something to take it down as opposed to build it up. So the attitude within a competency set is incredibly important to have that understanding, that mindset, that attitude of coming into this activity and putting these skills and tools to practice in a manner that is constructive. All right? So with that, and as we go along here, I'm going to invite you to put in your questions into the chat box. At the end, if we have time, we'll take a look at those. Even if we don't have time, I'll be looking at every single one of those comments, questions, to incorporate into the next session. Next session will be next week, same time, same station. If I can figure out how to get YouTube linked into this, I will. But for right now, we're going through Facebook. So welcome aboard, and hope you enjoy the journey. Okay, so we have, and this is words right out of International Coaching Federation. The International Coaching Federation has been around for 25 years. We just celebrated our 25th year in 2020. We're actually going into our 26th year now. I have been a member of this organization for 25 years and have contributed, I don't know, a year's worth, 2 years worth of volunteer time for different committees that have helped to create this as a profession. You know, the core competencies we just referred to, and that will be going into the updated version here today. Into the ethics and standards, and the IRB is the internal review board, and so on. So there's lots of different things that, for those of you that are a coach that have not joined the International Coaching Federation, I encourage you to do so. I am not a spokesman for the International Coaching Federation, but I'm a huge advocate. And like I say, I've been a very active member in the association for Federation for about 25 years now. What they've done is to say coaching has evolved and expanded over the last 25 years. And so the overall bottom line of what the International Coaching Federation is wanting to do and has started to do in, I think, 143 countries that it's active in right now, is empowering the world through coaching, and in all of its different forms. So just to read this, after 25 years, ICF is shifting to become the place for all things coaching, all things coaching. Our organizations, it's been under one umbrella, basically, so that's why they're making a distinction here. They're going into our organizations, plural, and the profession are rapidly growing and evolving. We're bringing it all together in one place to better serve the profession and ultimately change the world through 6 new family organizations that will be under the one umbrella of International Coaching Federation. I'm a huge proponent of this, that we've been talking about this for probably the last 15 years, of separating different things within the one association into different categories for better focus and for more accountability, and bringing the professional standards of, for example, credentialing or accreditation of coach training companies and organizations into separate verticals within the one overall desire for coaching to become part of the fabric of the culture of the world. And so hip hip hooray for my association. I'll claim my association. It's not my association, but it has been for 25 years. So I'm just delighted at the professionalism of our leadership at the International Coaching Federation. So, ICF Core Competency Model. This is the one that was updated October 2019, in case you're looking at this video recording at some future time. The old model, what we're referring to now in 2021, is the old model was developed, like I say, in 1998, I believe, when the early pioneers of coaching put that together. And I was gifted, privileged, guided to be one of those people that helped do that. It's made up of 4 major parts I have the A foundation part highlighted there in yellow. You'll see that. And we're going to go through today's session, competency number 1 and competency number 2. That falls under setting up the foundation for coaching. The 3 other components we'll get into in subsequent sessions. B, co-creating the relationship, where we have competencies 3, 4, and 5 in that particular part. The C part, the third part within the competency model, is effectively communicates. That will be competency covered under competency number 6 and 7. And finally, cultivating learning and growth is the 4th part of the competency model that incorporates competency number 8. Okay, so just to give you a framework of, we're kind of diving into the deep end, frankly, and giving you insights from a master coach and from a master trainer that has been doing this now for 25 years as well. So we're going to get into the foundation of what's considered the foundation by the Professional Association of Coaching. Competency number 1 is demonstrates ethical practice. Demonstrates ethical practice. Definition: understands and consistently applies coaching ethics and standards of coaching. So whatever profession you've been in, whether it's been law or medicine or business or nonprofit, whatever type of organization you've been involved in or profession, every profession has an ethical stand, an ethical code. Here's what we do as doctors. Here's what we do as nurses. This is what we do as professional marketing people. This is what we do as professional IT executives, etc. So the coaching profession has a set of ethics that are very extensive. We're not going to get into those specifically today because there's about 24, 25 specific things within that code. We may take that up as this next series within coaching. There's probably going to be 100 of these episodes over the course of the next year or two. So stay tuned for that. But to know that there is a very clear and direct set of ethics that we, as a professional coach, adopt and can talk about with our potential clients. Yeah. Moving on. What is some of the components under that? So these are, if you will, sub-competencies. There are 8 core competencies that we just went through in parts A, B, C, and D. If you look at all the sub-competencies under A, B, C, and D, there are 62 of them. We're not going to get to all of those today. But the first one out of those 62 is demonstrates personal integrity and honesty in interactions with clients, sponsors, and relevant stakeholders. So let me make a couple of distinctions here. The client is the person that is receiving the coaching, is the coachee, the client. The client, in most cases, where it's a one-on-one coaching relationship between myself and my coaching client, they would be the client, I am the coach. Now, sponsors are people within organizations that say, or a family unit, or a community. The sponsor is the one that organizes that relationship. So for example, a number of universities now have offered coaching, professional coach, professionally trained coach, to come in and support the student that is just coming into university or just coming into the master's program. And they will be matched up in terms of likability, chemistry, etc. And in that case, that would be the sponsor that is sponsoring, or in this case, even paying for the coach to come in and support one of their students. That happens a lot in organizations. Corporations have been using coaching now for as long as I've been involved with coaching, to a huge degree, and getting more and more because it's so effective. And so the corporation, and typically the HR, human resources director, or the learning and development director, is the sponsor within that organization that will organize and make sure that the coach that they present or make available and pay for is highly trained and credentialed and certified and so on, in order for their individual to get the most out of coaching. So that's considered the sponsor's role. Other relevant stakeholders refer to, let's say, for example, the marketing director has two people within her organization that she wants to have them further develop their leadership, further develop their personal habits and presence. So she may go to HR, human resources, and ask for a coach to be made available for those two people. And they would work with those two people for 6 months, a year. It's very typical. So while she doesn't directly pay for the coach, the organizations or HR funds will be used for that. She would be a relevant stakeholder in this coaching relationship. So we've got a coach, we have a client, and we have a stakeholder. And it's really important to understand how I, as the coach, relates to the sponsor and what information I provide them or don't provide them based on the confidentiality of the relationship. And also, what's the role of the stakeholder? What's the role of that marketing director? And what does she need to do in terms of observation or communication or interaction with her direct report in this case, over the course of those 6 months, or over the course of that 1 year assignment where the coach is going to be working with one of her key people. Okay, so that's what we're referring to there in terms of there are many, many different kinds of roles, and to be prepared as a professional coach to understand what can I say, what should I not say, what do I need to have the client share with the boss or the HR person, and what do I need to not say, and how do I handle that? That's all part of, again, this is the just diving into how do I present myself as a professional coach. Let me give you the opposite of that. If I'm not a professional coach and I get into that kind of a situation that I just described, I may say, without understanding the ethics of the profession, without understanding what I'm doing as a professional coach, I might say to them, sure, I'll tell you everything that goes on. I'll give you a weekly report. You've just broken the number one ethical guideline in professional coaching without even knowing it, perhaps. So this is really, really important to understand my role as a coach, how I interact with my client, how I interact with those that are focused on that client getting the best experience out of this coaching relationship. Okay, so it gives you a quick overview of that one. Number 2 is sensitive to clients' identity, environment, experiences, values, and beliefs. This client is different than me. Guess what? We're all unique, 100% unique. So how do I understand? How do I have compassion? How do I have an openness to understand their identity and have an accepting, what I call sacred space? How do I hold a sacred space for someone that's a little bit different than me, or a lot different from me? They've had a different experience growing up. They are a different ethnicity than I am. They have different, perhaps religious and spiritual beliefs than I was brought up with. They may have a different gender identity that's different than mine. And so how do I hold a space? And how do I need to do that in an honoring manner of a fellow human being? One of the key aspects that I talk about a lot in our coach training is how do I how do I do this coaching from a place of non-authority? How do I do this from a place of non-judgment? How do I do this from a place of non-directiveness? Which I may need to have those things, by the way, as a educator, as a trainer, as a parent, as a fellow human being in other different kinds of roles. But as a professional coach, how can I hold that safe space? How can I hold that sacred space for my client to discover for themselves, or in many cases rediscover, who they really are deep down, who their creator, how, like what I like to say is how their creator made them to be. And know at the deepest level of my being that they are innately resourceful. They are innately magnificent. They are here to contribute something to the world, my world, some cases directly, many cases indirectly, to make it be a better place to live. So there's that openness and sensitivity to all the different aspects of that human being. And it's not just their doing, they're task oriented. Okay, so I want to accomplish this over the next 6 months. Perfectly okay, by the way. And that happens in almost every single coaching relationship. But also the deeper side of it of who do I need to be? There's a favorite saying that's going around, has been for the last several years, in terms of being the best version of yourself. Well, yeah, we go way deeper than that. Way deeper than that in terms of the created self, the creator's self, not my conditioned self. Okay, so we'll do a whole series on that one, by the way. Okay. The third one that you see up here is uses language appropriate and respectful to the client, the clients that I work with, the sponsors that I might be working with, and the relevant stakeholders again. So I want to honor their language. I want to understand their language. And I'm not just talking about German, Spanish, English, Hindi, etc. I'm talking about the context of their language. Do I understand their world of corporate? Do I understand their world of NGO or nonprofit? Do I understand their language of that they use within their own circle? Okay, so use the appropriate language. This will vary from types of clients that you work with, types of organizations that you work with, and so on as a professional coach. I keep saying professional coach, by the way. Let me just take a moment to indicate there are coaches that call themselves coaches that continue to be a trainer, or continue to be an advisor, or continue to be an executive, or continue to be a subject matter expert. And perfectly fine, and you're absolutely welcome here. And the professional coach has gone through and understands just beginning of what we're talking about here in terms of ethics, in terms of competencies, in terms of training, in terms of understanding how can I best support an individual without teaching them, without giving them advice, without mentoring them, without parenting them, without being an authority of this. Coaching does not replace any of those. I'm going to repeat that. Coaching does not replace spectacular mentoring. I love mentors. I was a mentor. I was a mentee earlier in my career. There is still an incredibly valuable place in the world for great mentors and great parents and great leaders and great advisors and great consultants and great teachers. We don't aspire to replace any of those helping professionals in the world. In fact, we need more of them. And coaching is different. And so as we get deeper and deeper into this conversation and hopefully this series of illumination that I'm hoping to bring to you and giving you kind of an inside look from a professional coach and as a professional coach trainer. Okay. So let's continue. If I can get my slides going here, I'll be really good. There we go. Abides by the ICF Code of Ethics and upholds the core values. Again, we're not going to get into those. The ethics was again updated. That goes through an update probably every 3 or 4 years, and has been pretty consistently over the last 15 years. And the latest version was published and approved by the board of directors at the ICF at the end of 2019. And so I'll leave links below in the YouTube comments below so that you can have access. You have direct access to all of this stuff, by the way, at the International Coaching Federation. They just changed their URL domain name to coachingfederation.org, coachingfederation.org. And you can access all of this, but we'll give you a direct link for the Code of Ethics. Highly encourage you to look at that. Maintains confidentiality with the client information according to stakeholders' agreements and the pertinent laws of the land. Okay, so the laws that allow confidentiality or not allowing confidentiality changes from country to country. So that is, you need to, best place to find this one out, by the way, is join the ICF and join the ICF local chapter. There are, I've lost track. I know that we as an association operate in 143 countries right now around the world as of January of 2021. But even if you're not in a location nearby that you can go to, and they typically have meetings once a month, there's several virtual, and there's going to be even more virtual now because of COVID. So they would understand and know the laws that pertain to this particular aspect in terms of confidentiality. Having said that, confidentiality is the bedrock of coaching, professional coaching. Confidentiality, in other words, what happens between myself and my client, what the client shares with me as their coach, I do not share that with anybody else. I don't share that with my staff. I don't share that with my spouse. I don't share that with the company people. If the company people want to know something about what's happening in a coaching conversation, there's sometimes a joint meeting between myself, my client, and their boss, their sponsor. And I have the client share what they're willing to share. Now, I may help facilitate that, but I do not divulge confidentiality up to the laws of the land in the United States, which is if they are threatening themselves or someone else or property, then I have an obligation to share that. Okay, so if I'm called into a court of law and it says, Peter, what did they say about a criminal act, basically, then I am required by the laws of the United States to share that. But up until that point, and frankly, I've never had to deal with that, by the way. That is rare, because individuals that come into coaching are self-responsible and responsible for their own forward movement, and by definition are conscious human beings. They want to become more conscious of making better decisions, which is why they showed up for coaching in the first place. And so I've never had to deal with that particular one. And again, we have ethics in our profession to handle, what do I do? How do I handle that? Where's the line of needing to report something that my client said that might jeopardize a child or, like I said, their own life, versus when do I not share that and hold that as confidential because they are still working through that and they're not a threat. So this is serious business. This becoming a professional coach is taking on a mantle of responsibility, right, onto your shoulders to say, I'm holding a sacred space for the betterment of their life, personal and professional. And I make a difference. I make a huge difference. And so I don't want to get too heavy here, but understand the parameters, the playground that you're choosing to now play in as a professional coach. If you choose to be a professional coach. Okay, so let's move on. Maintains the distinctions between coaching, consulting, psychotherapy, or any other kind of therapy, counseling, and other support professionals. So we have a place, and I'll give you a little background here. Again, I was privileged to be involved with conversations at the genesis of coaching as it was evolving and starting off, the nascent first year or two. And we had a conversation amongst, there's probably about 8 or 10 of us, and all from kind of different schools. At that time, coach training, there's like 8 professional schools in the world that at least we know about. There's probably several others, but 8 that we knew about here in the U.S. And the basic premise of coaching came from the client is innately resourceful and can choose for themselves what's going to be best for their family, their own life, their organization, their job, their career path. And they just need time to think about it and have a space of reflection, frankly, without the burden of somebody else telling them what to do, somebody else's judgment, somebody else's good advice, somebody else's, here's, I've gone through this myself. Here's the next 3 steps that you need to do to have a successful career, as an example. And so the sense of individuals that had therapeutic issues, things from the past where they couldn't get past that, that might have been caused emotionally, spiritually, physically. They were, in fact, a victim of somebody else's perpetrations. Those people had and still do have lots of incredibly well-trained, highly trained therapists, counselors, rabbis, priests, spiritual people that have gone through the process of learning how to counsel, how to provide a therapeutic approach to people to deal with the past that seems to be stuck. Now, that's way oversimplifying it. I apologize to those of you that are psychotherapists. The people that were basically healthy, and this goes back into 1995 when we were having these kinds of conversations, 1996. The people that were basically healthy really didn't have a professional person to go to talk about it, to unravel. Even though they were healthy enough to take responsibility for themselves, take responsibility for their current choices to move forward in whatever direction they wanted to, and make that decision as well. What direction do they want to go into? And so coaching was born to support basically healthy people. And that's where we've come to after 25 years. A person that is not ready to take on personal responsibility, that absolutely categorically could be supported better by a psychotherapist, then we do not coach them. We have that conversation and we know how to have that conversation, and we know where the lines should be drawn in terms of, I am not trained as a professional coach to do therapy. I'm not. And I've said that now. I've probably said that 10 times to prospective clients over the course of the last 25 years. So that's an important conversation to have, and to understand, again, the knowingness of what I need to know in the competencies. And that's a huge one that I need to know. Where's the line? This, going back, is a purview of a trained, licensed therapist. And again, the local ICF chapter will typically know people in your area that do that kind of work for blank kind of people that need that kind of support. So to not only just understand it, but to be able to articulate that with a prospective client or prospective sponsor is highly, highly important. Okay, because there are very key distinctions between those kinds of people. And obviously, the next one is referring clients to that other support person when it's appropriate. A lot of times it happens in the early conversations of, what are you looking for? What's going on in your life? What do you want more of in your life? What are some of the things that may be stopping you, or you think is stopping you? Those kinds of conversations. It may be obvious to the coach, me, to say, I am not an appropriate support person for you. I don't have the training to work with you. I would encourage you to find a different kind of support person. Okay. And then refer them. It can also happen after the coaching relationship has begun, because this happened to me a couple times, but one in particular, without any divulging any confidentialities. We were talking with this. I was coaching this client, mostly around her business development things, and making great progress in that area for probably 6-8 months. And then came, she wanted to get into a primary relationship and was having massive issues with men. And it was clear that something had happened earlier in life where she had been victimized. And I said, I am not trained to work with this part of what's going on for you. Do you have someone that you can go to? And she said, yeah, just go to my therapist. She had a therapist. I said, super. And then from a coaching standpoint, so when will you make an appointment? And she said, as soon as we hang up, I'll make an appointment. She's busy, so I don't know when I'm going to be able to do it, but I'll set something up on my schedule and for her and the therapist schedule. Great. Now, the next part of that was, we've been working on your business. Do you want to take a hiatus, a break from the coaching part of business development while you're going through and doing the work with your therapist around personal relationships? And she said, oh, no. I'll stay with you, Peter, and I'll continue the work that I do with you in the business development, and I'll bring this issue over to my therapist. And so in her case, she chose to work on a parallel path, coaching in this area of her life, using a therapist for this part of her life. And it worked out brilliantly. Okay. So again, how to handle that and when to handle that and how to have the conversation around that is really important for the professional coach. All right. Competency number 2. This is still under the basic foundation of the 4 parts that we started off with today. The foundation has the second competency is embodies a coaching mindset. Embodies a coaching mindset. So the definition that we received from International Coaching Federation is develops and maintains a mindset that is open, curious, flexible, and client-centered. Now, that sounds simple enough. There's actually a ton that goes into this. I'll give you a personal experience from me. I came out of being an executive for many years. I come out of being a global executive for many years, so I had a global perspective and understood corporate people very well because I were one. And the mindset that I had as an executive is let's get this done as fast as we can. Let's be efficient. Let's be frugal. And let's get it done. And time is money. So, okay. Any questions? Go do it. Tell me when it's done. That was my mindset. My corporation loved me. I was very effective. I got all the bonuses and lots of bonus trips and blah, blah, blah. As a coach, the mindset is I don't have the agenda. It's the client's agenda. It's not a corporate agenda. It might be to start off with a sponsor, okay, and again, we have to understand that piece of it and how to work with that. But ultimately, it's the client's agenda. So every single time I get together with a client, what do you want to accomplish today? By the end of our session in half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it might be, what do you want to walk away with? Now, my mindset, again, if I fall back into the executive mindset and my client is sort of stumbling along and I'm for God's sakes, I've been doing this, I've been doing what you're trying to go through now. I've gone through that 5 times in my lifetime by now. Let me just tell you what to do. I've just left the coach's mindset and took on the role of a mentor, trainer, boss, parent, elder, because I've just switched the mindset to I know better. Let me save you time and effort. And I thought I was doing a really good job by doing that, by the way. And I was really good at that earlier in life. As a professional coach now for 25 years, what I now know that I didn't know back 25 years ago was I robbed that person the opportunity for development. Let me say that again. I took away from that person the opportunity for their own personal development, for them to develop the consciousness, the awareness, the tenacity of going through the options, determining for themselves which would be best for them, taking away the opportunity for them to have ownership in that decision-making process for themselves. And frankly, the impetus, the inertia, the spark, the inspiration to start them on that path that they have chosen for themselves. You're going to hear me say this if you're going to be involved with this series over the next year or two. You're going to hear me say several times. Number one, make the client do the work. It's their work to do, not mine. Not mine as a coach. It's their work to do. You're also going to hear me say many times that the world has been addicted to advice. Okay? So addicted to advice on both sides of it, by the way. The client, who might be 35, 45, 55, 65, doesn't matter the age, my experience, they have been addicted to getting advice from other people because they know better, because they're older, because they've gone through that experience. And so they get lazy. Just tell me what to do, Peter. You've been an executive, you've been a professional coach, you've been a mentor, you've been this, that, or the other. Just tell me what to do. Now, as a trainer, I have the permission to do that, but not as a coach. Have them figure it out. I'm an active participant in that, by the way, as a coach. I just don't, sit there for a half an hour or an hour and going, okay, so now what? Okay, so now what? So now what? So now what? What do you want to do? Okay, goodbye. That's passive. That is not an active professional coach. An active coach is sometimes challenging. It's asking them questions to go deeper. It's listening at a level that I was not listening, and I was a great listener 25 years ago. I was. And my listening now has probably improved by 300%. It's a much deeper listening as a coach because I can hear nuances or energy levels now that I never was tuned into before because I'm mostly silent as a coach. And I can ask questions from a very powerful place that they hinted at that they don't even know about without my advice, without my agenda, without my directional, because it's like, okay, so keep your fingers off of the direction that they are going to choose and allow them to come up with the answer. And so the addiction to advice is, again, on both sides. I'm addicted to getting advice. So then, okay, so if it doesn't work out, it's not on me. it's on the guy that gave me the advice. And we're also addicted to giving advice. Oh, thank you for recognizing me as a subject matter expert. Thank you for acknowledging me as an elder or as a competent person in this arena. Let me share my knowledge with you so that you don't have to struggle like I did. Again, both of those typically do not add to the tenacity, the maturation, the maturing of that individual's process of figuring things out for themselves. And it's almost one of the greatest gifts that we have as a professional coach with a person that we're working with to develop them as a human being. To develop them as a human being. It may be around a particular task today. The task might change next week or next month in our coaching. But at all times, I have a consciousness of I'm actually helping this person to develop to be their most authentic self. And how do they bring their most authentic self to decisions about their family, their career, their kids, themselves, their aging parents? So that's a huge part of this. So that's part of this mindset that is absolutely critical, absolutely necessary to put aside my corporate mindset, my parenting mindset, my authority mindset, and so on. To be open, curious, flexible, and in service. Client-centered for me is in service to the client's agenda, in service to the client's development, personally and professionally. Okay, so that's competency number 2. Let's get into the detail here. Let me do a time check here. We have, I lost my time. Where's my time? Holy cow. We have about 10 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up. Promise. So let's go into the final portions of what we want to talk about today in terms of this competency, the sub-competencies underneath this coach's mindset in terms of being flexible. Acknowledges that clients are responsible for their own choices. We've talked a little bit about that already. It's the client's choice what they want to talk about. It's a client's choice on how deep they want to go into that. It's a client's choice of stopping, going into the depth of something and moving to something different. Client's choice. Client's choice. And oh, by the way, client's choice. Okay? Engages in ongoing learning and development as a coach. Again, I could probably talk about 10 different things in this area, and I probably will over the next year or two, so stay tuned. But for now, my own personal evolution as a human being is foundational to being a professional coach. If I have the attitude, okay, I've learned everything I need to do at this age in life, thank you very much. I don't need to, I can stop learning. I don't need to develop myself any further. Well, then right now you've just taken yourself out of the category of being a professional coach. And I'm not talking about learning about things, although that's important. It's learning about myself, and that's a lifelong learning journey. One of my passions in terms of self mastery. So I talk a lot about self mastery, and the more, excuse me, the more fully developed that I am as a human being, then I can hold a bigger space. I can hold a more sacred space for my client to work within that's safe. Because here, I'll give you a quick one here on this one. To the degree that I judge myself for blank, for XYZ, I will tend to be holding that judgment for my client when they start talking about XYZ. Okay, real simple. So to the degree that I can accept myself, that I've learned and grown personally, I continue to hold a bigger and bigger and bigger space for my client. Last one, develops an ongoing reflective practice to enhance one's coaching. You can do this on your own through a number of different means. Again, this would be a whole class unto itself. There's also a very popular thing that's happening now within probably the last 4 or 5 years in the world of coaching, and that is bringing in the concept of supervision. Supervision is beyond mentoring. Supervision is from a master coach that can listen to you coach, or can listen to something that's going on for you in a supervisory session. And they, again, will challenge you. They will enlighten. They will shine a light on different ways that you might have been able to handle that kind of situation in your coaching. So it's kind of like the coach's coach, but we call him the supervisor, coaching supervisor. So that's another way of having that ongoing reflective practice of, what am I doing? Have I gotten off track? And I know a lot of coaches that I trained back 15, 16, 17 years ago that are now coming back and saying, I need a refresher. This is exactly the point that we're looking at now, is reflective practice and enhancing one's coaching. Because maybe bad habits have come in. Maybe I've gotten a little more authoritative or directive in my coaching that isn't serving my client to the fullest degree. So this is really a key, important one in our competency set. The next one's under coaching mindset is remains aware of and open to the influence of context and culture on myself as a coach and others. Okay, my client, my sponsor, the sponsor that's involved, stakeholders, etc. So this, again, I think is part of the personal development of not everybody grew up like me. What a surprise, right? They're not Caucasian. They're not male. They're not American. They're not this. They're not. They're different. So they have a different context, and I want to honor that context fully. Not just words, but compassion. This for me, this comes down to compassion for the fellow human being. All right. Uses awareness of self and one's intuition to benefit clients. Oh, again, I could spend an hour on this one, because this is probably the first profession that I know of that incorporates and embraces the idea of intuition. So I think everybody has it, number one. It's more fully developed in some than others. Those of us in the corporate world call it the gut feel. I got a gut feel about this. This is the way to do it. This is the person we need to hire out of the three. It doesn't make sense on paper, but I have a gut feel. All right, for me, that's the way that corporate people or males typically go. Intuition. We embrace that fully in coaching, and again, to be aware of that intuition and how to use it and not abuse it as a coach. Develops and maintains the ability to regulate one's emotions. Clients get into emotions. That's human. That's healthy. They could be excited. They could be in anger. They could be frustrated. They could be fearful. They could be a sense of loss and grieving on an individual or an opportunity. And how do I hold a space, continue to hold a space as a professional coach without becoming enmeshed, without joining them in that, but still holding a compassionate space for them to work it out when they're ready to work it out, their choice again. All right. The last two in this one, and we'll wrap it up for today, is mentally and emotionally prepares for the sessions. It's just so fundamental. I just don't, I'm not multitasking and then pick up the phone and say, yeah, who's this? And they go, this is your client, Peter. It's a whole bunch of things that go into this one that we'll talk about again in a future session. Oops, wait a minute. I got so excited there. Seeks help from outside sources when necessary. So guess what? I'm human. I need support sometimes. I need to be miserable someplace. I need to vent. I need to take care of myself. I need to take rest and relaxation because I've been working too hard. So I need to seek the kind of help that I need when I need it. And it's this is all for me about self-care. And nobody else can do that for me. Guess what? Not a surprise. But are you, as a professional coach? Are you taking vacations? Are you taking breaks? Are you getting me time? Are you getting recharge time? Huge. So there we have it for today. Hope you enjoyed that. Next week, we're going to be talking about going into the part B. That's the second part of the competency model, co-creating the relationship. And under number 3, establishes and maintains agreements. There's actually 11 sub-competencies. So we'll spend the entire hour on talking about reflecting and sharing about competency number 3, establishes and maintains agreements. So with that, we have about 2 minutes remaining here, according to my international clock over there. And I will look at the questions after the session today. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and encourage you to share with your ICF chapter colleagues that this is available for free. It's going to continue to be available for free, as commercially free as I can possibly do it through YouTube and Facebook. It will continue to be streamed. So hopefully we don't get interrupted with undesired commercial breaks. I think I've set it up that way, but they may change their rules. So this is my gift to you, my paying it forward, and all the things and benefits that have been bestowed upon me by my Creator. And I invite you and anybody that you know that might be interested in what we're talking about here to join us. So with that, I will wish you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon what part of the world you're in. And I'll see you next time. God bless and namaste.